Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Mark Martin. Today, Attorney General Jeff Sessions is slated to testify before the Senate Intelligence Committee on his unfolding role in the Russian investigation. Sessions faces scrutiny from both sides of the aisle after former FBI Director James Comey testified last week that he had a third undisclosed meeting with the Russian ambassador before the election. The testimony is happening in an open setting. Democrats and Republicans on Capitol Hill say that's because they want the American people to know the truth. The campaign to eliminate the Islamic State terror group enters a new phase. Coalition forces led by the United States are preparing for a major assault on Raqqa, the so-called capital of ISIS in Syria. George Thomas has more on the military operation.
U.S. and coalition forces are increasing the pressure in their battle against ISIS in Syria.
Our strategy right now is to accelerate the campaign against ISIS.
Secretary of Defense James Mattis told CBS News that his order from the President of the United States is to eliminate the Islamic terror group once and for all.
We have already shifted from attrition tactics where we shove them from one position to another in Iraq and Syria to annihilation tactics where we surround them.
So now a major battle is underway as Kurdish and Arab fighters backed by the United States are carrying out an offensive against Raqqa, which had served as the so-called caliphate or capital of the Islamic State. For several months, U.S.-backed coalition forces have been encircling this symbolic and strategic city, which ISIS seized in 2014 and has been used as a base to plan attacks abroad. Up to 4,000 jihadists are reportedly defending Raqqa, and the coalition forces are wearing them down. Mattis says once the group is completely surrounded, they'll go in and clean them out.
Our intention is that the foreign fighters do not survive the fight to return home to North Africa, to Europe, to America, to Asia, to Africa. We're not going to allow them to do so. We're going to stop them there and take apart the caliphate.
Faced with defeat in Raqqa, ISIS is moving its forces elsewhere in the region. But as ISIS faces major setbacks in Syria and Iraq, the group is trying to encourage its followers not to give up. In one of its recent magazines, the group tells readers to worship your Lord until death comes to you, and reminds fighters that hardships cause a hidden strength. It goes on to say that Islam needs men who are inclined to work hard, find comfort in pain and toil, strong resolutions, and those who refuse to be entangled by weariness. So roll up your sleeve. In an audio tape released this week, an ISIS spokesman called on supporters to launch attacks in the U.S. and Europe during Islam's holy month of Ramadan, which began 2 weeks ago. Since then, there have been 95 terror attacks by radical Muslims that have killed some 1,100, including people in Britain, Egypt, Iran, and the Philippines. George Thomas, CBN News.
A Hamas terror tunnel was found underneath 2 UN-run schools in the Gaza Strip, and the Israeli government is asking the UN to openly rebuke Hamas. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu made a statement about the discovery on Sunday.
In the last few days, one Hamas tunnel was exposed under 2 schools in Gaza. Hamas is using school children as human shields. This is the enemy we are fighting for many years, an enemy committing here a double war crime. On the one hand, it attacks innocent civilians deliberately, and on the other, it hides behind children.
He also said it is time to disband the UN Relief and Works Agency. Christian humanitarian and evangelist Franklin Graham is speaking out about a new law passed in Ontario, Canada. He says the U.S. should be on guard over the law that pits Christian parents against LGBTQ interests. The Supporting Children, Youth and Families Act, also known as Bill 89, replaces Ontario's previous law dealing with child protection, foster care, and adoption. It redefines the best interest of the child to include sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression. Graham wrote on Facebook, "Can you imagine having the government take your child away from you? If the children decided they felt like switching their gender identity and you disagreed." The Ninth Circuit Court in San Francisco has ruled against the president's revised travel ban. The U.S. Appeals Court says the administration violated federal immigration law and failed to provide a valid reason for keeping people from 6 predominantly Muslim nations from coming to the U.S. Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen are included on the list. Attorney General Jeff Sessions says the new decision would harm national security. Hawaii, Virginia, and Seattle have also challenged the ban. The administration says it will receive further review at the Supreme Court. Thousands packed a football stadium Sunday for what's come to be known as the Super Bowl Sunday of Christianity, and many more filled churches to watch from a distance. Chart-topping recording artists performed at the event, but in the end, Jesus was the star. Ephraim Graham brings us this story from the Arizona desert at the annual Harvest America Crusade, hosted by Pastor Greg Laurie.
It's 100 degrees here in Phoenix. Phil Wickham, Need to Breathe, and Mercy Me are also singing at this year's Harvest America Crusade.
And every day I wrestle with the voices that keep telling me I'm not right.
Nearly 8 million people have attended Harvest events online or in person, and nearly 500,000 have made professions of faith. Those numbers climb even higher this year with the event here at the home of the Cardinals, University of Phoenix Stadium.
Let's welcome Mel Gibson to the Harvest Crusade.
Actor and director Mel Gibson made a surprise appearance last year. And this year's crusade isn't short on surprises.
My dad was a monster, and I saw God transform him from a man that I hated into the man I wanted to become.
Mercy Me shares a bit of the feature film based on their mega hit, I Can Only Imagine, not due in theaters until spring of 2018.
I'm Greg Laurie, and I am a huge Steve McQueen fan. He's a Hollywood icon. Maybe that's why they call him the King of Cool.
Pastor Greg Laurie gives audience a sneak peek at his film, the untold story of acting legend Steve McQueen's journey to faith, scheduled to hit theaters in the fall.
It's never too late to come home.
Yes.
Never, ever, 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 ever. He loves you. He loves
And
you.
American Idol's Jordan Sparks reveals an emotional faith journey of her own, following her big win in 2007.
Jordan has a really amazing story because, you know, she won American Idol at 17. She became a huge success, has had a very great, fantastic career, but drifted from her faith. You know, she was raised in the church and loved the Lord as a young girl. She drifted, and she came back to Christ about a year ago.
So for me, I was sort of wondering, what is the meaning of my life?
Jordan's testimony sets the stage for Pastor Laurie's sermon tonight.
Sin promises freedom, but it brings slavery.
The biblical story of the prodigal son, whose father gracefully receives him when he humbly returned after wasting his inheritance in a life on the run from doing what was right. June 12th, the Monday following, how do you measure impact or change when the conference or the crusade is done?
Well, for us, you know, our profit margin is people coming to Christ. I want to help people get ready for heaven. When it's all said and done, everyone's basically the same. Everyone's empty. Everyone's lonely. Everyone is afraid to die. Everybody has the same basic human need. And Christ died for our sins on the cross. And we can all be forgiven.
Ephraim Graham, CBN News, Phoenix, Arizona.
Coming up, we sit down with two-time MVP Steph Curry. He talks about his love for the game, his faith, and his family. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Golden State Warriors have done it again. The Warriors are NBA champions for the second time in 3 seasons. They beat the Cleveland Cavaliers in Game 5 of the finals, winning the series 4-1. 3-point jump shots, points in the paint, and a tight defense gave them the lead going into the fourth quarter. Steph Curry and Kevin Durant were unstoppable, carrying the team to their 9-point victory. Kevin Durant was also named the game's MVP, scoring more than 30 points in all 5 games. Many players and analysts have called Steph Curry the greatest shooter in NBA history. And according to Curry, that puts a big target on his back. The defending 2-time MVP talked with our Tom Buring about how he handles the pressure both on and off the court.
You can't get lost in the daily routines and the hype of what we do on the floor and forget, why we're here.
Steph Curry is basketball's distinguished sharpshooter, an NBA champion and back-to-back MVP. After becoming the league's first unanimous selection to win the award, his growing acclaim raises expectations.
But it definitely becomes harder to stay at that level because you have a bullseye on your back, you're under a bigger, I guess you call it a bigger microscope, and there's much more scrutiny, criticism, praise, all that you have to deal with.
Steph had to first deal with being overlooked, attending small Davidson College when big universities offered no recruiting interest. NBA scouts then questioned his size and skill set prior to the 2009 draft, before the struggling Golden State Warriors took him with the 7th pick.
Are there days when you come in here and you're thinking, how did I get here?
100%. There are times where I think back to when I was drafted and didn't know exactly the direction we were going, a losing team, and to now where we're playing for championships and have a huge stage to play on every single night we step foot on the floor. So it's an amazing journey and something I'm grateful of the entire journey to get here.
Here is Oracle Arena, home of the Warriors and hub for a rabid national and local fan base.
For a Carolina kid, what makes the Bay Area a great place to play and to pour into?
The Bay Area is just so culturally diverse, and there's so many different people from different backgrounds, and it's obviously a beautiful landscape. You got obviously the Bay, you got San Francisco, Oakland. So there's just a lot of variety in a very small space. You can tell the people who live here love it, and they receive us on the basketball floor so well. They support us. They're passionate fans and care about what the Warriors are up to.
A team that's up to being the league's elite, with Steph's signature three-point shot resetting his own NBA record in each of the past 3 seasons.
What for you is the most important component to your outside shooting?
Consistency with your base and fundamentals. So you look at the greatest shooters in basketball history, not one person shoots like another person. They all have a very unique form, but they're the ones that can repeat that form over and over and over again with little change each time, so that they are a more accurate shooter when it's pressure time or when they're open, not open, whatever.
On your release, what are you looking at? Where's your focus?
It's on the rim as I'm shooting. After I shoot, when the ball is halfway up towards the rim, I kind of stare at the ball just to see how it's rotating, see what line it's on. You usually know at that point whether you're going to make it or miss it. And then you lock back on the rim to hopefully see that ball go right through the net.
His scoring skills are on a fast break of their own, quick enough to earn Steph a reputation as the NBA's greatest shooter ever. But of all the shots that the Billboard 100 treasures, it's the sure shot that anchors his soul.
I've learned well from my parents. They set a very, very high standard of who you are, what you believe, and how Jesus can work through you on a daily basis should be at the forefront, and that should be able to navigate you through whatever life situation you're in, and to not be ashamed of that.
His dad, Del Curry, played 16 NBA seasons. Growing up in a basketball family gave Steph a nurturing model shared among teammates.
The brotherhood that is on this team runs deep. And we know there are a lot of guys that are similar in faith. How does the Christianity, the brotherhood among brothers, play into that?
You ask anybody in their walk of faith, it's all about finding accountability partners and finding people that can encourage you in your walk. Knowing nobody's perfect, we all have very similar temptations, struggles through our entire walk of faith. So for us on the court, we all grind and compete on the floor, so why not grind and compete in our spiritual walk together as well.
The overlap for both player and person becomes intentional.
We have a group chat, we call it the discipleship group, where we share Bible verses every single day and kind of do a Bible study through text message. Every game day, we have 10, 11 guys show up for the 30-minute Bible study and prayer service. Daily encouragement, that's the biggest thing.
Steph shares encouragement from his platform, donating chemically treated bed nets internationally by every three-pointer he makes with a Nothing But Nets campaign.
How satisfying, Steph, is that for you to be able to impact lives a half a world away?
It's definitely gratifying to know We're saving lives. Malaria is a devastating disease, especially for kids under the age of 5. And so families in Africa who are in, malaria prevalent areas, those parents can't protect their young ones from a mosquito bite and the negative effects of malaria, without our help and without these nets. And this isn't an issue that we can eradicate. It's something that's preventable, and we're on that mission.
Steph Curry, the basketball shotsmith, double dribbles his discipleship into the game he plays and into the lives he influences outside of it.
That's the hardest part. How crazy society is and the pace of our life right now. You have to be able to continue to get fed every single day because there are distractions left and right. Find ways to impact people with how you walk. Whether you say anything or not, that they can see something that's different about you and how you carry yourself. And that's a follower of Jesus.
Up next, 50 years after they survived annihilation, Israel is growing and fulfilling prophecy along the way. On the eve of the Six-Day War in 1967, Jews around the world were terrified their newly born homeland was about to be destroyed. But as Scott Ross reports, no one could imagine the victory that was in store for Israel, nor did they realize how prophecy and history would come together to deliver that amazing triumph.
I was writing a chemistry exam in my junior high in Montreal, Canada. I snuck in a transistor radio to the exam room. I was listening because we were frustrated and frightened.
More than 5,000 miles from Israel, Jewish teenager Moishe Kempinski was feeling the shock waves of the Six-Day War.
The world told us the next Holocaust was going to happen. Tel Aviv and Haifa were digging up mass graves. We expected the worst.
That fear spread across the border to New York, where Martin Oliner lived.
All the troops were lined up, Nasser's troops. We thought we were losing Israel forever. We thought it was really a Goliath story. Nasser was ready to annihilate us.
Then something very different happened.
On June 6th, something miraculous happened that we really weren't aware of. The most powerful Arab army in the Middle East was the Jordanian Legion. British armed, British trained. They were in charge of the old city. And for some reason, till this day, no one knows why, they just picked up and left.
On the third day, Israel captured the old city.
So on my transistor radio, I was listening to a broadcast of a broadcaster, a correspondent running with the forces. Then Rabbi Goren decides to blow a shofar, a ram's horn. Thousands of kilometers away, blowing the shofar, the sounds goes across the radio waves, across the ocean, into my junior high, into Montreal, and changes me forever. I knew at that moment, no matter what would happen, I would become a Jerusalemite.
Author and shop owner Kempinski moved to Israel more than 30 years ago. I talked with him near his shop in the old city's Jewish quarter, something that would not have been possible 50 years ago.
How's it changed your life? I mean, that's a pretty loaded question.
Not really. It's when I finally realized I'm not reading the Bible anymore. I'm not studying the Bible. I just became the Bible. When you realize that you're walking here is a fulfillment of prophecy. My child playing in the park 30 years ago, and I realized, you know what, maybe my son Yoni was the one that Zechariah saw in his vision when he says in Zechariah 8, there will yet be a time when old men and old women rest on the streets and children play in the streets of Jerusalem.
What has it done to present-day Jerusalem now when you look around and see, all right, 50 years have transpired, what you've just described? Do young people today appreciate that? You have what, 6 children? All served in the military?
All served in the military, and all of them very much appreciate it. In addition to that, it gave them the eyes to see everything in its real context. Construction booms, cranes that you see all over the country. You suddenly realize they aren't construction cranes. They're the words of Amos 9 being made physical. I will rebuild your ruins. How is God going to fulfill prophecy if not through construction cranes? When you realize that every physical thing you see, every brick you see, every building you see being built is actually God speaking to the world saying, wake up, I'm doing what I said I would do. Are you going to be part of this plan or are you going to fight it?
And for the future?
You said earlier, thank God. Is that literal? Thank God? God watches over Jerusalem, you think?
I think there's no question that Jerusalem is the city of David. God has watched over Jerusalem for millennia, for 3,000 years. This is the most important city in the world.
I think what is going to happen is there's going to be more negativity And there's going to be more people realizing God's on the move. I think what God is saying is no more am I going to be known as the God of history. I'm going to be known as the God of now. Open up your eyes, watch it happen. I'm on the move. That's what's happening. God's on the move, and everything is possible.
What about the dividing of Jerusalem?
A, they can't do it.
Yeah.
B, my response is I come here every morning, open up my shop, meet with people, have coffee in the center of the world, and know that I'm supposed to be here and will continue to be here till the end of days.
Scott Ross for CBN News in Jerusalem.
God is definitely on the move. What a miraculous war, the 1967 Six-Day War. We'll be right back with more of CBN NewsWatch. Operation Blessing has helped to bring new hope to the small village of Mesdames Belize in Haiti, one of the poorest communities in the country. Operation Blessing has been working with the villagers in the area for the past 7 years, teaching students how to read, write, and do math. And one of the most helpful tools has been the game of chess. The kids not only learn how to play, but they're taught how to be strategic, patient, and considerate. Each year, more than 300 students from across Haiti gather to compete at the Haitian Chess Nationals. This year, students from the Operation Blessing supported school competed. 2 children placed first, and 2 others were awarded second place in their divisions. Congratulations. Well, that's it for now on CBN NewsWatch. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care about most at cbnnews.com. And of course, tell us what you think about the stories you've seen here. You can do that by emailing newswatch@cbn.com or talk to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day.